It is the 41st millennium. Mankind battles for survival across the universe, besieged on all fronts by the heretic, the mutant, and the alien. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. One faction of Space Marines stands amidst the chaos, the mightiest of the Emperor's warriors, and a beacon of light in the darkness. This legion, the 9th Legion of Adeptus Astartes, the Blood Angels. Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon. It looks like I goofed and forgot to disable this one camera. There we go. Give us a shout if you can hear me okay. How's everybody this evening? Hope you're all well. Look through 4 army lists. I've got about an hour. So, yeah, if you want to get your list reviewed by me, I guess, on the channel, what you do is you go over to the community tab of the Blood Angels Commander channel, which you can find just by clicking. I was going to say, how do you find that easily? You click on the big Blood Angels Commander button, and you end up somewhere here. You click over the community, and then in the latest community post, just put your list in one of these comments down here, and I'll find it and I'll get it on the channel. Good evening, everybody. Wolfgar, what's up? Rezio, what's up? Killer Leviathan, Kevin, Left-Handed Texan, Aradine. Good evening, everybody. Hello, how are you? So we're looking at 4 different army lists, and I'm going to get straight into it, honestly, because time is short, time is money, you know this sort of thing. So here is this list is called Chunky Boys. This is list number 1 for tonight, and I'm expecting a lot of Gravis Marines. Let me fix this so you can see it. Stormraven has been useful for this player. This was NVZ32. It's been a sidekick to increase my Librarian flops. I mean, I guess the Librarian can flop around. Maybe he means drops. Flops? Drops? Or maybe he means flops. You can move the aggressors and eradicators in the same turn in the Stormraven with a Flamer Death Company Dreadnought. I had considered putting a Death Company Dreadnought inside a Stormraven, or even a Brutalis now. The Stormraven can carry the Brutalis now, if I'm not mistaken. And the Brutalis can do like 12 mortal wounds on the charge. So, I mean, not many people are running Brutalises, but 12 mortal wounds is not to be sniffed at, right? 12 mortal wounds will do a significant amount of damage to anything and everything. So, I'm just going to pull up the Stormraven's profile just to make sure that I'm not lying to you guys. Stormraven, it can take 1 Dreadnought. Yes, so I mean, if you wanted to run a Brutalis Dreadnought, then possibly the best way to get it across the board is inside a Stormraven. Still pretty risky. Stormraven's 14 wounds, toughness 10. 3-up save. If the Stormraven had an invulnerable save, I'd feel pretty good about things, but because it doesn't, I feel like it's a little bit vulnerable. Hey, good evening, Jim. Okay, and I'm not really sure what the Stormraven's got shooting-wise that's good, because it's got, what, 1 Twin-Link Las Cannon, 1 Twin-Link Multi-Melta, a couple of Hurricane Motors, and then the Storm Strike Missile Racks. I guess they're fine. You get 2 of them, right? Yeah. It doesn't feel like, for the amount of points you spend on the Stormraven, you get enough firepower. I guess you're paying a lot for the transport and the movement speed. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Stormraven then. So we've got an Apothecary Biologist with Fire Discipline. We've got a Captain in Gravis Armor with the Honor Vehement that gives him extra attacks and extra strength. That'll be good for his power weapon. The Mastercrafted Heavy Bolt Rifle, I suppose, is interesting. I think I prefer the Captain with the Power Fist, because I feel like those Gravis units are going to end up in combat, so I think a Power Fist is better. Stormraven's -1 damage. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's -1 damage, but I mean, it's still vulnerable, because it's got no invulnerable save. Yeah. Squad of Intercessors, 6-man Squad of Aggressors, Battle Predator, Ballistus Dreadnought, Death Company Dreadnought, Eradicators ×2, Gladiator Lancers ×2, Inceptors with Bolters, Librarian Dreadnought, scouts, and then a Storm Raven with the last cannon multi-mil. Yeah, the loadout I just mentioned. Okay. T10 14 wounds seems squishy. Without an invulnerable save, it kind of is, I guess, right? And the thing is, if you fly your Storm Raven to the other side of the board, and you tell your opponent there's a Brutalis Dreadnought and, I don't know, like 6 Eradicators inside it, the chances of them not putting every single bit of firepower in their list into it is slim to none, I feel like. I mean, maybe... I was going to say, maybe you could Armor of Contempt it, but like at the event I was just at, I played against Chaos Knights, and Chaos Knights Melta-Guns are Melta 4, Strength 12, and they're minus 5 AP. So, I mean, like, minus 5 AP doesn't really work on a 3-up save, even with Armor of Contempt, right? So, yeah, I'm not in love with the Storm Raven, just because I don't think... If there was, like, you remember last edition, we had a Psychic Power that could give a unit a 5-up 5-up invulnerable save, or even if there had been a strat that could have given a unit a 4-up invulnerable save or something. I don't like it just because it has no invulnerable save like that. And it's gonna be a bullet magnet, because the whole play is you try and get forward so you can get your, like, Death Company Dreadnought or your Ballistus Dreadnought out, and you get to make a nice little charge, right? Kevin says 2 minutes ago I was thinking I need a Storm Raven, and now it's just going to get deleted. Yeah, I've got one. I played it one time in 9th edition, and it was about the same levels of survivability in 9th edition. I'm not entirely sure how you play it, and it doesn't have enough fire. For me, it doesn't have enough firepower to justify it. It's got like a twin link multi-melta that's got an 18 inches range. It's got one shot from a twin link las cannon, and then it's got a couple of strength 10 minus 2 3 damage missiles. So if you're gonna play it safe for a few turns, it's literally only get 3 shots. Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure in the Storm Raven. Double Gladiator Lancer is pretty strong into a bunch of lists, but it's also pretty weak into any sort of horde list. Aggressors are a great all-round unit, especially with Librarian Dreadnought. Intercessors are great. Ball Predators, I think, are pretty useful. I wouldn't put a twin assault cannon on it, though. I would put Flamers on the main cannon, the Firestorm cannon. I think the Firestorm cannon is much better than the twin assault cannon. Because you get like D6 plus 3 minus strength 6 minus 2 damage. I think the Firestorm is going to vastly outperform the assault cannon. The Ballistus Dreadnought is a good unit. I like it. I am actually thinking of dropping one out of my list at the moment, though. Death Company Dreadnought with double heavy flamer is decent because it's very much anti-infantry on the shooting, anti-vehicle as well with the claws. 2 squads of Eradicators are good enough. I'd make sure you got a multi-melta in each squad because you can take it for free. It just gives, because you get to re-roll your hits with your Eradicators, it's much better to have the multi-melta than just regular melta rifles, because it's like you'll get 1 hit on 3 with a re-roll, or you get 2 hits on 4s with a re-roll. 2 hits on 4s with re-rolls are pretty reliable. Is the Furioso never taken now? Not really. Not really at all. Death Company and Librarian are taken. I don't think many people even take the Ballistus Dread, the Brutalis Dread, which is a real shame because the Brutalis Dread looks very cool, and it's the brand new Primaris Melee Dreadnought. But honestly, I've never seen one. I've never played against one, and my one's on the sprue since I bought it probably 6 months ago. I haven't felt the need to get it out and make it. So Inceptors are a very good unit. Scouts are also a very good unit. I think in terms of like a scoring unit, they're brilliant. I'm going to add some Scouts into my list in the near future. Intercessors are very useful because they sticky objectives, but I do actually much prefer heavy Intercessors. The Bolters are way better, Raoul, on the aggressors, but they're only way better if you attach the Biologists with Fire Discipline. If you attach a Biologist with Fire Discipline, you actually have an insane amount of firepower I did a slide on that a few weeks ago, or sorry, I did a video on it, but I know I had it in a slide. Let me show you a slide. If you use the bolters, and you re-roll all your hits, so basically when you attach, let me see, when you attach bolter discipline, or what is called fire discipline now, you get sustained hits. So every time you roll a 5 up, you get a hit and a burst, because you attach this character, the biologist, which gives you lethal hits. So you have lethal hits. So every time you roll a 5 up, it's an auto wound, and every time you roll a 5 up, it's a burst. And then you use the stratagem, Storm of Fire. So every time you're in Devastator Doctrine, you improve your AP and you ignore cover. And what you end up with is a unit that can just delete anything in the game. They get 18 shots from the bolters. They get 66 grenades, which on average is 21. So you get 39 shots. Every 5 up is an auto wound and a burst. So statistically, when you roll 40 dice, you're going to get like 10 5 ups, right? Yeah, you actually get, I think on average, you would actually get 13 5 ups. So when you roll 40 dice, you get 13 5 ups. So straight away, you get 13 auto wounds, and then you get 13 bursts. And then you re-roll all 26 misses. You don't care if you got hits, you just re-roll everything. And then statistically from that, you get about another 10. So straight away, the enemy needs to take about 20 plus saves. And then you've got the 20 bursts that you need to roll to wound with as well. The aggressors they carry me in that tournament I just played at the weekend, or last weekend. They're amazing. But I mean, aggressors with flamers are not bad either. But the Boltstorm ones with the Apothecary combo is insanity. It's probably the best unit in the Space Marine Codex, because they also can't really be charged. Because if they get charged, they have 40 shots, and again, every 6 is a hit and an auto wound and a burst. So I think I had a knight charge my squad of aggressors, and the aggressors did 8 damage to it, shooting it. And then I also had a squad of 10-man Khorne Berserkers charge my aggressors. I killed 5 of them with Overwatch. So the Overwatch potential is insanity, their shooting potential is insanity, and then the Khorne Berserkers actually had a really poor roll in after they charged, right? Like they did like 5 damage or something. And I saved a bunch of it, so I only lost 1 aggressor, and then the 5 aggressors that were left just ripped the berserkers apart with their power fists. It was quite glorious, actually. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the Storm Raven dropping off a dreadnought. Here's the thing: in some games, if the opponent can't drop the dreadnought, it'll win you the game. If your opponent can kill your Storm Raven, then everything inside is going to be basically. It's going to be worrying for you, and double Lancer plus double Eradicators plus Ballistus Dreadnought feels like you have a very, very high amount of like single damage fire here, but we don't have too much that could deal with hordes. I mean, having played the aggressors cannot deal with horde lists by themselves. They can do a lot of damage, but you can't deal with the hordes just with the aggressors. I actually found Death Company with Power Fists very, very useful against the hordes in the game that I played. Good morning, Damien. I don't think you need to switch your weapon loadout from bolters to flamers. Just tell your opponent what they are before the game. No one cares about WYSIWYG anymore. How hard would it be to deep strike the Stormraven? I mean, it has to deep strike, right? Like it can't start the game. It can't start the game on the board. It has to arrive in turn 2, and it arrives 9 inches away. But you wouldn't be able to disembark from it and charge with a. Well, I mean, yeah, the Dreadnought wouldn't be able to disembark from it and charge, or make it like a shorter distance charge, which is what the whole point of it is, right? Like, ideally, you want to park your Stormraven 5 inches away from the opponent so you can disembark your Dreadnought and make a guaranteed charge. And your Brutalis Dreadnought does 12 mortal wounds on the charge. So Yeah. Okay. I feel like this is a pretty good anti-tank list, anti-monster list. It might struggle against some armies. It might be okay. I mean, I've actually dropped the Gladiator Lancers from my list. I'm not entirely convinced by them. I'm trying to think why I dropped them. I think it's just because they're so one-dimensional. Like, they kill vehicles and monsters, but they only get 2 shots. And if your opponent rolls good on their invulnerables, then you actually don't do any damage with them. And the amount of times that I've had that 160 point unit do no damage felt to me that they were just too one-dimensional, so I don't use them anymore personally. What have I been using? I've been using Vindicator tanks. I think they're pretty great. They typically, for me, average about 6 strength 14 minus 3 damage shots. They just seem way better. I know they're 30 points more, but they seem way better. More toughness, more... I was going to say more toughness, 1 less wound, I think. But I think 1 more toughness is more important than 1 less wound. Yeah. He called them chonky boys. I guess he's got like 12 Gravis Marines. 15 Gravis Marines. Okay. I think the limit for chunky boys needs to be you need 20 Gravis Marines to be able to call your list chunky boys. Okay, next list. Night Hunter. Would you keep the Infernal Pistols on Death Company or switch to Hand Flamers? That's a tough one, Highland Phoenix, because I think the Infernal... It feels like most of the time Infernal Pistols are going to be more useful than Hand Flamers. Like 99% of the time, you're going to want to shoot Infernal Pistols, because Infernal Pistols kill anything. Yes, if you're playing a list that's got 200 Guardsmen in it, then Infernal Pistols aren't exactly optimized. But I feel like Infernal Pistols can... Throughout the event that I played, I feel like in 4 of the 5 games, the Infernal Pistols were really useful. In the one game against Horde Guard, yes, Hand Flamers would have been better. So, Hadley says Vindicators are the greatest for all time. Yeah, I run 2 of them, but I mean, honestly, I think there could be scope to run 3 Vindicators. They're just so good. They're just so versatile, and the fact that they can shoot into combat as well just means that you don't always need to fall back. You can just shoot your blast for strength 14 into combat. It's really nice. Alright, Night Hunter says, hey John has requested, here's a list I'd like you to review. Feel free to include it in your army list show. Well, it's the Sons of Sanguinius list. Cool, so we're moving through the detachments tonight. We've got a captain with Icon of the Angel. We've got a chaplain with Artisan of War. We've got Lamartes, and we've got a Sanguinary Priest with a jump pack. We've got a Death Company Dreadnought. We've got a 5-man Death Company, a 10-man Death Company, a Devastator Squad. Strange loadout. Grav Cannon, Heavy Bolt, or Las Cannon, Missile Launcher. We've got a regular Firstborn Dreadnought with a Heavy Flamer and a Multi-Melta. That's a strange loadout there as well. We've got a Infiltrator Squad, a Librarian Dreadnought, a Predator Destructor, so that's Autocannon and Las Cannons, a Vanguard Veteran Squad with jump packs. I guess that's 10-man, all with Storm Shields. That's actually not a bad price, 210 points for that. And then the Vindicator tank. Okay, this is a weird one. I did some maths on Devastators, and I feel like if you wanted to play Devastators, I think Eradicators just are a better option because of the baked-in rerolls to hit and wound and to damage. So, I guess if your Devastators are going to say super far back next to Firstborn Dreadnought, maybe that's slightly better, but for me, I think Eradicators outperform the Devastator squad will do. Predator Destructor I've run a few times. I think it's not a bad tank. I don't like running 10-man jump units personally. I think they're too vulnerable to blast. I think they're too difficult to hide. I think that they are too difficult to get all into close combat, and quite often they end up getting left. The problem with a 10-man squad is you end up leaving a couple of guys in the open after you kill a unit in combat, and then the opponent can pick you off because they can see the couple of guys that are in the open and they can shoot at them. So I struggled to find a good way to run 10-man units, honestly. It's not something I'm even remotely interested in trying, because in my experience, every single time I've tried it, I've lost. And with the Gladius list that was all Gravis, I was basically one dice roll away from coming top 3 in a GT. So it's like it's night and day, in my opinion. I don't know how you play 10-man. I don't know how you play it, because even in 5-man you end up having guys left in the open in bad positions that you can't do anything with. And maybe not everyone's playing the charge rules correctly, but remember, when you do roll the charge now, you don't have an option of where you move anymore. If the unit can end in base contact, you have to end in base contact, which means that if you roll a high number on the charge, you can end up having to put units into positions you don't want them to be in. And it's just very, very difficult to play 10-man squads. If you're managing it, great, good for you. I've given up on it, honestly. I don't know how it's going to feel when the Blood Angels Codex come out. If the Blood Angels Codex is really good and we have to run 10-man squads, because I still think there's an inherent problem with the rules for melee. The lack of options when you roll, like the lack of options of where you can put your models when you roll the charge rolls now is pretty limiting. Okay, so I'm not sure I love the Devastator squad, and I definitely don't love a Firstborn Dreadnought with a heavy flamer and a multi-melta. I feel like if you were going to run the Firstborn Dreadnought, his aura gives you reroll hits in infantry. So I feel like he'd be more like a fire support platform, and these are not fire support weapons. So I'm a little confused about that. I guess the Sangre Priest would be with the Vanguard Veterans, giving them +1 to their AP. And 5-up Feel No Pain, which I guess is pretty decent. A 5-up Feel No Pain on a 4-up Invan is also pretty decent. The Vindicator's good. Librarian Dreadnought's good. I'm not sure. I was going to say, I'm not sure who the Librarian Dreadnought's really teleporting around to get the most out of, though. I mean, the Devastator squad, I could understand them being teleported if they had all the same weapons. I'm probably going to run 2 5-man death companies to my next GT. And I'm probably going to attach a chaplain to both, just a generic chaplain, because I think the +1 to wound that he gives is really, really useful. Assuming that they hurry up and FAQ that, because I guess at the moment there's a big debate on whether you can even run that legally, because Blood Angels need an FAQ, I guess. It's a bit weird that we haven't had it already. I was going to say the captain's probably with the captain would make sense to go to the Vanguard Veteran squad as well. Yeah, it's a bit sad. Like, no one's running Sangre Guard as well. They're just not even an option for people. They're just way too expensive. 175 points still for Sangre Guard. So no one's running them because no one sees a lot of value in them. Death Company Dreadnought, I would put him in reserve. He's got the Magna Grapple, so you can make that 7-inch charge. I'd save a CP so you can do the reroll charge. And yeah, I mean, it feels like it's a reasonably decent hybrid list. I think that the Devastator and the Dreadnought confuse me because I don't really know how they're synergizing with the rest of the list. I also just want to point out that I find heavy intercessors are amazing, and they're very good at holding your objectives, and they might even be better than regular intercessors. But I guess this list doesn't even have any. I was going to say, if you got nothing to hold the backfield, so maybe the infiltrators. I was going to say, yeah, I mean, I think this Dreadnought could have a better loadout. Probably like a twin las cannon and like a missile launcher might even be better. It's illegal and stupid. Yes, exactly. It's why the tournament that I went to just said that they were allowing Legends rules for stuff like that that should have been FAQ'd that hasn't been FAQ'd. So props to the tournament, or props to tournament organizers for being more on top of it than Games Workshop, I guess. Sons of Sanguinius is also the hardest detachment in the game to play right now. You know, whoever Night Hunter. If you don't believe me, it's the hardest attachment. There's a YouTube channel called Stat Check now, and they get all the stats for all the armies. And I posted this the other day, this picture here, that shows the detachment win rates for like... So, okay, it's not the hardest. 1% of all the Space Marine players played the Stormlance detachment, and apparently that is the worst performing detachment. So if you're not the 1%, and you are the 22% that plays Sons of Sanguinius, you're this is why I'm saying the 10th. So I don't think the Sons of Sanguinius rules are bad. I think the rules for melee combat in 10th edition suck. And I think this probably is this 35% win rate is a representation of the limitations of the 10th edition rule set for combats, pile-ins, consolidations, all that stuff. Because it's much, much more restrictive than it was before. And yeah, I mean, maybe it works okay for World Eaters. Because yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. Like, because I said that as well. It's like, if Angron fails his charge and he's stuck out in the middle of nowhere, it's not the end of the world, right? Angron's got, like, toughness 10, 18 wounds, 4 up Invuln. If he dies, you'll just 50-50 on it. Maybe he'll respawn. How would you fix the melee rules? I think they need to return to a position where once you kill a unit in melee, you're allowed to consolidate. Even if, like, you're allowed that 3-inch movement regardless, as long as you, same as it was last edition, as long as you end closer to an enemy model, I think that needs to return. And I probably think that the rules about having to place every unit into base contact when you charge, that probably needs to go. And I also think that the rule about having to be based against your own model rather than within an inch or a half an inch probably needs to go as well. It's just like there's too many things that stack up there that make the combat too difficult to do. Helen Phoenix says better melee weapons. Yeah, I mean the melee weapons, I don't think potentially the weapons are the problem. I think it's the limitations on the movements that the problem. And I think they try to make it simpler so that people that weren't pro at the movement could play better. But I think it's actually really hurt like top level, like the movement in 9th edition, or even the last 5 or 6 years on this channel, I've always said like movement is Blood Angel's biggest strength. So they cut away like three parts of the game where we could get movement, or we could use movement to our advantage. Isn't Stormlance the only one that's vehicle heavy? Stormlance is like the White Scar one where you get like bonus to bikers, but there's only like one biker unit in the codex, so it's kind of a half-baked detachment, honestly. Gladius and Ironstorm are very, very similar, and then I think again there's only been a few people playing First Company, but they've actually done really well with First Company. Because it's such a low number of players, it could literally be like 2 or 3 people went 3 and 2, and that's at 60% win rate, right? If you fall back, you have to take a battle shot test. You only have to do that if it's a desperate escape. Oh no, you don't. Hold on. Now you're confusing me, Helen Phoenix. I don't think you have to take a battle shot. If you failed your battle shock and you fall back, it's a desperate escape. You don't have to take a battle shock to fall back, though. Right. List number 3 is by Daryl Jackson, and this is back to Gladius. So I would assume that we're back to Bolt Storm Chunky Boys. Yeah, we've got Lamartes in this list though, Atet Marine and Sanguinar. Cool. I haven't actually played Sanguinar since my very first game of 10th. A lot of people say that he's really good. I honestly think probably like he's just too expensive for me to take, but if he was maybe like 120, I'd probably take him. I think he's pretty good. We've got the Intercessors, we've got 10 Death Company, and I think maybe the only way you could run 10 Death Company is with Lamartes. But even then, I'm just worried about the movement issues that you would run into. I definitely wouldn't have all 10 of them with Bolt Pistols. Infernal Pistols or Hand Flamers are the options that you really want to take. We've got Eliminators with Sniper Rifles. I always feel like if you're going to run Eliminators, one squad is not enough. Because 3 shots from a Sniper Rifle doesn't really kill anything. So I always feel like if you wanted to do Eliminators, you probably need to do 2 squads of them. Unless, of course, you're just using them as action monkeys and you don't really care if they kill anything. Then maybe it's okay, but at that point, would you not just be better maybe using scouts? You've got 2 Gladiator Lancers here. You've got a squad of Infiltrators. This is very similar to the first list we saw. the Librarian Dreadnought, and then we've got 2 Redemptors rather than that Stormraven. Probably like that more. Redemptor's toughness 10 with a 2-up save, -1 damage. So Lancers will kill tanks. Redemptors will kill sort of elite infantry. Librarian Dreadnought will teleport around your aggressors. Intercessors to hold an objective. Death Company Lamartas maybe jump from cover to cover. Try and make some charges. Eliminators could be a scoring unit, could be a screening unit. Sanguinar could be a counter unit / scoring unit. Tech Marine, I guess, because you've got a bunch of tanks and a bunch of Redemptors. And then the Apothecary with the lethal hits. Do you know what? You don't have the Fire Discipline in here, and trust me, like the whole way that aggressor squad works is the Fire Discipline. If you're not going to run the Fire Discipline, I wouldn't run the squad, because a few times, I think against Khorne, they precisioned out my Apothecary Biologist. And this is one of the reasons, actually, that I found out after the tournament. It's a good idea to put Fire Discipline on the... If you're running both the Captain and the Apothecary, put Fire Discipline on the Captain rather than have him on the Apothecary, right? Because it doesn't matter... It doesn't matter what unit Fire Discipline is on. I checked this on the Games Workshop app, right? I didn't do this in the event. So in the event, they precisioned my aggressor squad and killed my Apothecary. So when they killed my Apothecary, I lost both the lethal hits from the Apothecary and I lost the enhancement Fire Discipline, because that was attached to the Apothecary, which is, while it's leading a unit, sustained hits 1, in addition when in Devastator Doctrine, crits on 5s. So in my new list that I've built now, I've put Fire Discipline on the Captain, and I've kept the Apothecary with the lethal hits. So if I get precisioned on my squad of aggressors, I kind of have to choose now. They can either remove my lethal hits, or they can remove my sustained 1. They can't remove both. Which is what happened to me in the tournament when the Khorne, whatever it was, Champion of Khorne, I can't remember the name of the character, some sort of Khorne leader. He was leading a squad of 10 aggressors, 10 berserkers. So, Lord Executioner, maybe? I think that was it, a Lord Executioner. He precisioned away my lieutenant, my Apothecary, and I lost both my buffs. So I guess another advantage to now running the aggressors with both the Captain and the Biologist is you can split the buffs across 2 characters. If they precision you, it's going to be much harder for them to kill that Captain, because the Captain is 4-up Invan, half damage as well on that Captain. So if you're getting hit with like a Lord Executioner who does 2 damage a swing, Master of Executions, thanks Arc Gauntlet, then potentially you're only taking 1 damage per swing, and you've got your 4-up Invan, right? So that's good to know. So I've swapped that out. But yeah, the whole way that this unit does damage really does hinge around the Fire Discipline. It's so darn strong. If you're not going to run it, I wouldn't run the aggressors, because anytime that I couldn't get them in Devastator Doctrine, because one of the games against Gav's Knight, they got Battle Shocked, because obviously Chaos Knight's Battle Shock, and it was near the end of the game, and I only had 1 CP, and I could have auto-passed the Battle Shock with my 1 CP, but then I wouldn't have been able to put them in Devastator Doctrine, because I wouldn't have had any CP left. So I went, fuck it, let's risk the Battle Shock, because if we pass the Battle Shock, then we can do Devastator Doctrine, then I can use my free strat to get Storm of Fire. So that was my hope, but I failed the Battle Shock, so I was not... And because I failed the Battle Shock, I wasn't even able to like throw a grenade with the unit either, which was really, really quite annoying. But yeah, so Tech Marine with double Redeemer and double Lancer is probably actually pretty good. I probably need to run a couple of Redemptors. I know that last edition you could run like double, triple Redemptor lists, and they were pretty good. And I think the Plasma Cannon's even better now, because I heard at the GT that I was at, there was a Space Wolf player that was playing double Redemptor, and he Oath of Momented like a unit of Death Wing Knights. Remember when we were looking at the lists a few weeks ago? There was a bunch of Death Archangel players that shitload of Deathwing Knights. So they off them home in the Deathwing Knights, and they went after them with their macroplasmas. And I guess the macroplasma, one of them got like 9 shots, I think, against the Deathwing Knights, and I believe he killed like 6 Deathwing Knights because obviously those plasmas are 3 damage a hit. So I think they're -1 damage, so every 2 would kill a knight. And then because he had 2 Redemptors, plus the Redemptors have a bunch of other incidental fire, rocket pods, onslaught cannons, storm bolters, I guess. So I believe he killed like 6 Deathwing Knights in one turn from 2 Redemptors or something. And that was, I mean, those Deathwing Knights are crazy expensive. They're like 235 points for 5, right? So, and they're slow as shit. So if it's just like they're out in the open and you can kill a bunch of them with your plasma cannons, it's a pretty good day, I guess. So yeah, double Lancer, double Redemptor. But this list needs a change to make the aggressors good. And then 10 Death Company. Like I said, I'm not running something a million miles from here. I feel like it's better to run 2 5-man Death Companies with Chaplain, but that's just my opinion. The reason that I like that more than the Lamartes thing is when Death Company get targeted, they die pretty quick anyway. Their Toughness 4 Marines die quicker than shit, it seems like. And the +1 to wound from the Chaplain that doesn't cost me any CP, well, my list is really CP hungry. I feel like if you want those aggressors to work, you need to spend CP on them literally every turn, because you got to put them in Devastator Doctrine every turn, and when they get shot, you got to Armor Contempt them as well. So you're going to spend the 2 CP you've got every single turn on the aggressors. So if you're going to have to do that, then you're going to have no CP to give the Death Company, what's it called, Red Rampage, or Honor the Chapter, which is the +1 to wound. So you're not going to have any CP to give +1 to wound, or at least in my experience, you're not going to have much CP. Every CP is going to be really, really precious. So I guess I don't really want to have to spend them on something to try and make the Death Company do more damage. They just a regular Chaplain. Plus the Chaplain does mortal wounds. Like 50% of the time the Chaplain will do mortals as well. Just no Terminates. How are they in the first company detachment? I don't think Terminators are in a good spot right now. They're too expensive. Their guns have no AP. The Chain Fists aren't that powerful. The Power Fists are fine enough, but they don't get that many attacks. The recent change they made to aggressors just make aggressors and Gravis units so much more attractive than Terminators. Terminators, I think, are now, I would say they're a defensive unit. They can sit on an objective, they can hold an objective, but they don't do any damage. So if you want a unit that can just sit on an objective but doesn't do any damage, then you want Terminators. But I feel like there's other units that can sit on objectives and not do any damage and be more survivable. Cough, cough, heavy intercessors. Heavy intercessors are the real winner. Were a real winner for me at this event I was just at. I would try a list like this, but I would just make a couple of little changes. Get in that fire discipline. Maybe tweak the Death Company a little bit. Figure out what the point of the Eliminators is. They might just be better off, like I said, as scouts. And yeah, it's not a million miles away. It's really not a million miles away. I mean, you could argue maybe I was going to say the Sanguiner is a unit that's designed to save units. And the only thing you're going to want to save here is your aggressors. And your aggressor's probably just going to do Overwatch when they get shot. So I'm not convinced on the Sanguiner on this list, but maybe there's an edge case that I'm not seeing. Yeah, it hurts every time to hear that. Dude, I've got like a whole shelf with like, let's say 30 Assault Terminators, 30 Bolter Terminators, and then how many Terminators did they come in that, what was that box called? Leviathan. Was it 5 Terminators that we got in the Leviathan box, or was it 10? Because I've got 2 sets of Leviathan. Zachary, if you send me your list, I'll get you on the channel real quick. Like probably next week. If there's a show next week, I'll try and get it on next week. I don't know. So I must have like 100 Terminators, and yes, it hurts because I don't use any of them. And do you know what hurts more is those new Terminators, the new characters, the lieutenant. No, sorry, the librarian. He looked super dope. Like I've got no motivation to build him at all. Like I think Stormbolters need a point of AP. Honestly, like like no one run tactical squads, and everyone was saying like, "Oh, tactical squads suck. They don't have any AP." Terminators are kind of left in the same boat, right? Because people do run intercessors and heavy intercessors and stuff, and they all have one AP on their guns for the most part now. You know, but Stormbolters just have nothing, and it's not like they even hit on twos. I mean, they're veterans; they should probably hit on twos, but it's not like they even hit on twos. I don't know. Stormbolters to me, may like if they give Stormbolters -1 AP, I feel like Terminators might get some play. That might be like something. But no, I just don't see it. And their buff here where they can get +1 to hit if you choose them as your oath target. Why would you choose Terminator's target as your oath target? They don't do any damage. They don't have any AP. So it seems like you're never going to choose their target as your oath target. Could I be wrong? AP1 isn't even that crazy with how easy cover is. Yeah, I mean, you're right. AP1 might not even be enough, but even at AP1, I still don't know if I feel they're very good. Terminator's probably going to have to drop like 20 or 30% in points costs to be picked up, maybe, by people. All right. This is our final list for tonight. Let's have a look. This is going to be a Vanguard Spearhead detachment. So I did a video on the Vanguard Spearhead detachment. The key thing about them is you can deep strike like a unit of 10 guys, or not deep strike, sorry, infiltrate a unit of 10 guys with the blade driven deep. They also get Shadow War Veteran. I'm going to have to look this one up. I'm not remembering quite what Shadow War Veteran is off the top of my head. If anyone remembers what it is off the top of their head, tell me. Shadow War Veteran. It is Vanguard Spearhead. Shadow War. Oh, it's not loading. Where is it? Shadow War Veteran. It's a full boss only. After your opponent uses a stratagem, the bearer can use an enhancement if it does until the end of the battle. Okay, so it's like a way to vect an enemy stratagem and make it cost 1 more. Cool. Okay, so we got Captain in full boss armor. And he's like the sniper type captain. He's 110 points. Why is he 110 points? Yeah, why is 110 points? Why? Oh, because it'll be 110 points with a 30 put on from the enhancement. Okay. I was going to say, like, this guy's way too expensive, 110. Get 2 shots, strength 4, -2 damage, precision. Ugh. It doesn't feel like that's very good at all, honestly. Okay. We've got the captain with the relic shield and the thunderhammer. We have a lieutenant in full boss armor. We've got another one because these guys are lone operatives. We've got the sanguinary priest with a jump pack, a ballistus dreadnought, 2 Death Company dreadnoughts, heavy flamers, magna grapples on both, a scouting, snipering, eliminator squad, 2 incursor squads, librarian dreadnought, predator destructor, storm speeder thunderstrike, Vanguard veteran squad, 10 man with storm shields, and then a vindicator. Okay. Bolters in general need something. They don't feel like the Emperor's Wrath. Yeah, I mean the bolt rifles are okay. But yeah, Stormbolters to me, every time I've used them, they just feel really underwhelming. He redeploys multiple full boss units. Okay, so Captain with a Sanguinary Priest and Vanguard veterans. Okay, and they're going to be forward deployed. Enhancement lets me vect a stratagem once per game with the full boss and gives the Van Vet unit infiltrate. The plan is to put them somewhere they will be relatively safe for shooting in case I go second, hopefully on an objective. that I can set up the sticky trap and cause mortals. After they can surgically strike enemy units as they move up the field. The 4-up invuln and 5-up invuln should keep them ticking for several turns. It certainly can. The Phobos Captain lets me redeploy all 3 Phobos units. If I need to include putting them in reserve to psych out my opponent, I can pay 1 CP every turn to put either of the jump units into reserve or 2 Phobos units. Yet the guerrilla tactics type stratagem is very good. Then Cursor unit can be thrown by Librarian Dreadnought. They then shoot something, and the Lieutenant's ability to move D6 makes it an easier charge and trigger the Haywire Mine in the beginning of the fight phase. Lethal hits from the Lieutenant will mean some chip damage here and there. Yeah, and I believe Incursors have sustained hits now, so even if they're not doing that many attacks, they do have like sustained hits on their melee weapon. The Captain with Eliminator will use the +1 BS and AP strap for free every shooting phase to try and pick off characters to do some chip damage to vehicles or just do actions. They get move shoot as well, so it can keep them alive longer. If any Phobos units get charged, they can move 6 inches for 1 CP as well. Generally just trying to score high and disrupt the opponent. The armor on the list is just soften up targets and protect my deployment zone. Death Company Dreadnought start in reserve to ambush vehicles and monsters as needed. Thank you for featuring this list, Blood Angels Commander. I love your content. Thanks for submitting it, Justin. Justice Mobile. I do appreciate it. Yeah, I was going to say, the thing that scares me is having just been at an event where I played like against 12 Chaos Knights. And 12 Chaos Knights is a lot of toughness 10, 5-up wounds to get through. And I feel like a unit of Vanguard Veterans can kill a Knight. A Vindicator with a little bit of luck, maybe with a Thunderstrike, can kill a Knight. And then you're kind of struggling. I guess the Death Company Dreadnoughts coming in from reserve can kill a Knight. Yeah, this could be a tough list to play into an armor-heavy list, I feel like. And that's something that you know, when you talk about being able to deal with all sorts. I'm not sure I rate a Thunderstrike. I was going to say, I'm not sure I rate the Thunderstrike when you, I would say you have so little ranged firepower. You've got like the Ballistus, the Destructor, and the Vindicator. Maybe it's not so little. But like, part of me thinks you might just be better off with another Vindicator rather than the Thunderstrike in this list. I guess so. The Phobos Captain and the Eliminators are going to try and snipe stuff every turn. Eliminators, I actually don't really know what their guns are now. They're like Strength 5 -2, 2 damage, are they? Strength 5 -2, 3 damage. Oh, my bad. But yes, 3 up. Okay, so why is the Captain's gun so bad comparatively to the Bolt Sniper Rifle? That's strange. Well, I mean, if you get them hitting on 2s and you get an extra AP every turn, I suppose that's not bad. The Gravis Captain in this detachment with a low NOP enhancement is actually a solid point scorer backfield holder. Do you mean the Phobos Captain? Yeah, I mean, double Phobos Lieutenants. And I suppose the Captain with Eliminators with the move, shoot, move. And the double Death Company Dreadnought. And the Ballistus, the double Incursor, Librarian, Destructor, Thunderstrike, Vindicator. I mean, it's actually probably more all-round than I thought it was. Adam Timms, thank you so much for subscribing. I do appreciate it. We don't get many new subscribers in live streams these days, that's for sure. Do you know what? I think I like this list more than I thought I did when I first looked at it. I'm trying to think if I think that, like, a Captain with a 10-man Vanguard Veteran Squad with a Sangre Priest. I know that I complain a lot about the 10-man Death Company with Lamartez, but I think that, like, I think the thing that scares me, the Vanguard veterans, is that they only do 1 damage. Vanguard veterans get what, 4 attacks these days? 4 attacks. Strength 5. The captain will make them strength 6. And I guess the captain will let you use the free strat for +1 to wound. Lance and +1 AP. Okay, so they're AP 3. Strength 6, AP 3, +1 to wound. You know what, maybe that's not so bad, actually. Ten guys, 40 attacks, hitting on 3s, so 26 hits, give or take. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. A list like this is going to struggle to kill into like an all armor list, JT Money. Because I struggled a little bit into all armor, and I feel like I had more anti armor and more killing and more durability as well. Like I said, those knight lists, those Chaos Knights have AP 5, and I had to check the Chaos Knights after the game because I was like, well, I knew Gav was probably playing it right, but like the Chaos Knight's damage output from indirect fire was kind of horrific. If you look at like, he had like, I think he had 6 War Dog Brigands and like 6 Carnivores maybe. And every single one has this Havoc multi-launcher, which is D6, weapon BS3 plus, strength 5. So against like a squad of intercessors or something, it's averaging 4 shots, which is not too bad, but he's got 12 of these knights, right? And this one's, it's BS2 up. The Brigands are BS2 up. So even on indirect, they're hitting on 2s and 3s, or sorry, 3s and 4s. So you're taking like 48 shots per turn, half of them hitting on 3s, half of them hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. Like, it's a lot of 3-up saves to make on just any sort of regular Marine. I was losing a whole squad of Tacticus Marines a turn to indirect fire. Like a whole squad, 5-man squad, is gone every turn from indirect fire. And it was only when he started shooting the Gravis units that it was like, okay, Gravis units are pretty impervious to this because they're toughness 6, right? It really made me think, like, toughness 4 Marines, man. Toughness 4 Marines are in such a tough spot. Like, you could just lose your eliminators to them. Like, yeah, if you played against Chaos Knights, turn 1, he just shoots like half his indirect fire. There you go, your eliminators are gone. There's nothing you can do about it. You just lost them anywhere on the board because it's like 48 inches. Those knights move like 12 inches, so it's like 60-inch threat range, right? Some of those knights move 14 inches, actually. What are you supposed to do against that? It's pretty brutal. On the plus side, Wapedia is working really well again, isn't it? We can see all the rules for everything on Wapedia again. The Eliminators used to have like camo cloaks, didn't they? They have stealth. Okay, they got -1 to hit now. Okay. Better than nothing, I suppose. Still, statistically, even with -1 to hit, you probably lose all 3 of the Eliminators in 1 turn to indirect fire from friggin' Chaos Knights. I think people overlooking stacking abilities for a lot of the Phobos and Speeders using the Thunderstrike to get +1 to wound. You think? I mean, I've used the Speeder, man. I've got the Speeder. I've used it. It's the Knights charging through terrain that sucks. Yeah, I mean that doesn't help either. That's the gotcha, really, isn't it? But it's just the matchups you play against. It was the same in my matchup against Tau Reziel, in that like Tau have those SMS missiles on like every single whatever. I'm not really that familiar with playing Tau, but I knew I did save the list that I played against, so I can cover it on the channel. And it was like every tank or whatever they were called had like 10 SMS. Well, he actually had a couple of Tiger Sharks as well. So it was just like so much SMS missiles. Um, that -1 to hit doesn't stack to the -1 to hit from indirect. Oh, ouch. Yeah. Yeah, so bolters do nothing against Gravis Marines, but bolters kill toughness 4 Marines pretty effectively, I guess. Alright. I'm gonna have to build a Vanguard list at some point. I did cover one on the channel like a few weeks ago, and it was a pretty cool list. James sent it to me, so there's a video already up about like a Vanguard list. This one doesn't look too bad. I do worry a little bit about like heavy armor lists, how it's going to deal with that. But maybe it's just about pressuring the map, scoring, doing things with the Librarian Dreadnought. Who knows? They dance a lot of units in and out of strategic reserve. Yeah, I mean that's the strength of Vanguard, right? So maybe if you have enough units that you can dance in and out of strategic reserve, and then you have enough stuff on the board that can still do some good killing, then maybe you're in a good spot. So yeah, I think that's us for tonight. He did say generally try to just score high and disrupt the opponent. And hey, you don't have to kill units just to win the games. That's very, very true, isn't it? Something that I definitely lost sight of a little bit sometimes. In that there's something fun about killing your opponent, though, right? Like sometimes you just want to kill your opponent. You're like, screw it, I'm just killing you. That's what's happening. Hey Brandon, good afternoon. Yeah, so that's it. If you just joining in now, then I guess we are at the end of the show. It would be good to try out board control a bit more. Yeah, I think I was going to say I think my next list is going to have scouts in it. 100% going to have more. I think I'm adding scouts. I'm adding a second death company. I'm probably going to add a Calidus assassin, honestly, as well. And I might see if there's space to add a second squad of heavy intercessors, because I've fallen in love with the heavy intercessors. They're so good on objectives. They're just so useful. Plus something that I think people forget is that they're OC2. So by the time you park some heavy intercessors and then you like tow a dreadnought onto the objective, all of a sudden you have like OC15 on the objective, or 14, I guess, because most of the dreadnoughts are OC4. Vanguard must play a lot of Phobos, and a brick of 6 Devastator Centurions going into melee is just wrong. You have no buffs to give to melee units. Yeah, I guess you've got no buffs to give to melee units. Huh. Well, in that case, if you are running melee, you probably... Oh, the Vanguard detachment. Oh, well, yeah, I guess I don't like 10. I guess I did... Yeah, I think, in my opinion, then, the only way you can make Vanguard work is to attach Chaplain to Death Company, which we're waiting for a fix. We're waiting for a fix on. Chaplains with Death Company are basically Blood Angels of 9th edition, right? You get +1 to wound on your power fists, and it's amazing into most enemies. And because Death Company have built in rerolls to hit now, it's kind of amazing into most. Yeah, it's like 5-man Death Company with Chaplains performed way better than I thought they would at the event that I was at. And performed so good that I feel like I need to run 2 squads. 2 5-man Death Company each with a Chaplain. That's my plan, probably going into my next GT. I need to take off, guys. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Please leave a like on the stream if you enjoyed it. I will be live on Wednesday night for a battle report against Brett, so that probably means Blood Angels versus World Eaters on Wednesday night. If it's not World Eaters, Brett plays Orcs. So I'll find out. But yeah, probably going to do a live game on Wednesday night. So hopefully I'll see a bunch of you guys there. And have a great weekend, guys. If you didn't watch Friday's video, check it out. I'll be back on Wednesday. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for watching. Peace.